All right, everyone. Welcome back or welcome to Dallas. We just keep getting better every week. It feels like, practice is proven to make people better, and we're living proof of this.
You know what? I can't say that we haven't not done extremely well every single time there's been a microphone in front of us.
We're batting 1,000 because every time we shoot for a guest that really is too good to be on the show, they all say yes. And this week is no exception. We got a big shooter for this week.
We did. We actually got a hard banger for this one.
I'm so excited. So he's got a lot of news. We'll cover it in the interview, but a lot of exciting stuff going on. But let's get into it. So our guest this week grew up in the beautiful town of Stratford, Ontario.
He made Stratford famous before Justin Bieber made Stratford famous.
Fact. He attended the University of Guelph.
Alongside me, overlapped by just a little bit, but we practiced together, and that was a lot of fun.
Awesome. What else we got? He played for the Canadian B team.
He did. He came to one practice with the Canadian beach national team.
I think he got the offer, but then he went to FTC instead, I think, right?
We'll get into that later on.
And he's been overseas. He's played in France for a couple of years, and I believe now he's in the Czech.
Now in the Czech Republic. Welcome to the show, Marc Wilson.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you, buddy?
Introduction. Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic.
It's good to see you. It's good to hear that you're doing well, and congrats on another fantastic year overseas.
Man, this season was great. It was finally a year where I felt like I got some recognition and hard work was finally starting to pay off. So that was it was a great season.
That's awesome to hear. And you were alongside fellow Canadian Steve Hunt through this whole process. And what was it like having another Canadian overseas on the team with you?
Well, I've been very fortunate. So in my first 2 years, I played in France at Saint-Nazaire. And in my first year there, I played with Ray Zito and Braden McLean, two Canadians.
Friend of the show?
And then the year after that, I played with Stephen Hunt at the same club. And it's saves your life almost, I guess. Just especially as you're having a Canadian on your team for your first year professionally is a lifesaver because you don't have to adapt to the language as much. You have a wingman, right? So it's just you have somebody to look out for your back, and because you're going, it's such a risk, and you just take a leap basically jumping over to seas, and you don't know what to expect in a lot of different areas of life, and to have somebody to go through with that was very exciting. And but then this season, I actually didn't have any Canadians on my team.
This is your third year with the club, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I played with Canadians in France for 2 years. The first 2 years of my professional career, and then I played in the Czech Republic this past season. And there was no English speakers on the team, so no first language. I had a roommate who was Brazilian, who at the beginning didn't really speak a word of English, and then there was an Albanian on the team who spoke all right English, and then all of them, the rest of them were Czech. But I think the one thing, if I could say, to that experience was, if anyone can speak enough English so that they understand your jokes, you can make a friendship. That's the point where it's like, because even by the end of it, my Brazilian roommate, his name is Zoyo, and it was a very awkward and quiet first month, basically, because we were basically holding our phones in front of each other with Google Translate, but then eventually we learned enough English words so that we could joke with one another. And as soon as you laugh, there's the friendship. And if you're stuck in a scenario where you can't laugh, I think it's just not the same. So
how's your Portuguese?
How are you is como está?
I think that's also Spanish, so I think you got a couple languages there.
Thank you is de nada. You're welcome is obrigado. That's about it, I think. So 3 words. I don't know what you want to say about that.
So it's safe to say his English is better than your Portuguese.
Yeah, that's very correct.
That's okay. We've known each other a long time. I think the first time we met was through your former teammate and friend of the show, Ray Zito, after a York University Excalibur tournament. Mark, I don't know if you know this, great guy, but also big fantasy guy. The reason Mark and I first became friends was we had a fun night out in the city of Toronto, and I put on Lord of the Rings in my bed. And also a friend of the show, Pat Strzelkowski, came in and said, "Hey man, like, I don't know you, but is that Lord of the Rings?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Can I watch it?" And I go, "Sure." And I think Mark poked his head in, and he said, "Man, is this Lord of the Rings?" I said, "Yeah. Do you want to come in?" And I think the three of us hung out on a single bed and watched the whole 4 hours of it, and we've been close ever since.
Yeah, that was a fun night, and yeah, that's how it all happened. It was I must admit the later on in the night too, the partying helped as well, and but yeah, I if there's something that a volleyball player is pretty good at, it's watching television because you have so much downtime, like I was saying earlier before. But yeah, man, I'm big into fantasy. It's a shame Game of Thrones is over, and I don't know. I'm sure you could start another podcast about the latest season, but
Yeah, we're too busy talking to sweet people like you. But so you're in your off season now. You're getting ready to go back for another year. Are you going to stay in the Czech Republic? What's your plan right now in terms of contracts lined up, or what you're looking to do for next season?
yeah. So next season, I'm playing for BK Karla Vasco, which is a team in Czech Republic, and so they're one of the more well-known teams in the league, and they actually played in Champions League this past season, and so I'm excited to take part in their goals and their venture because it's a team. It's a team that's aimed to win a championship, which is really exciting. And I've found that just your pro career starts usually by just getting your foot in the door, and you kind of got to take what you can get because nobody really. It's difficult for the Europeans to compare the level of Canadian volleyball. So they take a chance on you, and so the last, the beginning, let's call it these beginning years of my career. You play for teams that are, that are building for the most part, and so now I'm finally. This is what I was saying by like the hard work is starting to pay off because now I'm on a team that's built to win a championship. So that's the big exciting thing for next season is that I'm aimed to win and then participate in European championships like cups and who knows, maybe a Champions League down the road. So that's what's really exciting.
That's awesome. Now I've always spoken really highly of you in terms of your work ethic and really being a professional when it comes to preparing yourself. We spoke to TJ a little bit about how the FTC groomed him into his pro career. It was a bit of a battle for you to get onto that program. Can you speak about that and your experience with the national team in Canada?
Yeah, sure I can. Yeah, let's call it an ongoing battle because it's been very challenging. Yes. I decided that I wanted to be great at one thing in my life, and that goal was turned into being great at volleyball. And I defined that as playing on the national team and for my country. And so I had that goal at the very, very beginning of university, and to this date, I've tried out for that team, 8 summers in a row, all back to back to back to back. I was successful for 2 of them, and in my graduating year from University of Guelph, I tried out for the B team, and I think with the help that they knew that I was wanting to go to FTC as well, they took me to develop me, and so that was the highest moment of my career. Basically, I was so relieved that all my effort had come in, because it was like, it's brutal. It's brutal going there every summer and then just getting cut and coming back and feeling like you haven't gained anything. But eventually, I came in, and then once I got to FTC and the national team, it was like I was playing a totally different game. There is a lot of great coaches in the university leagues, and I learned a lot of great things from at the University of Guelph. But man, it was just learning about the international level and the amount of like physical reps you get. Just, it was like it condensed. It may as well have been all 4 years of my university career, all 5 years of my university, all like crammed, condensed into one. Because you just don't do anything other than volleyball. It's the moment where I turned into just like a pro athlete. And so that was a big defining moment.
So it was a good little development stream to get you ready for the load and the expectations overseas.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's actually, if you let me talk about the environment, like now in the last few years, because like back then I felt like it was kind of an obligation to go to FTC if you wanted to play professionally, because less, the European coaches, teams just knew less about Canadian volleyball as a whole. And I feel like it's changing now, and that and I know Team Canada has tried to continually force their efforts like onto the university league in terms of coaching their systems and volleyball the way that they do it at the FTC, or MEP, I think is what it's called now. And so I think it's less of an ultimatum to be a pro is going to FTC, and I think clubs now are recognizing guys straight out of university, which is exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
So how did you stay attached to that goal? Because obviously that's a big goal you made, but like you said, you didn't make it right away, right? So how did you keep getting better? Like, what would a typical day look like as you as a university student who said, like, I want to be a professional athlete, like it's one thing to make a huge goal, right? But how did you make it into like a daily commitment?
Yeah. So I knew that, well, every time I went to one of these tryouts, usually the guys that got selected were the guys at FTC. And that was because they were nose to the grindstone, doing, practicing 9 times in 5 days kind of thing. And so basically in university, I knew I had to be practicing as much as these guys. I needed to be, if the classic saying, if you're not doing the work, somebody else out there is. And so, like, you can ask Coach Cal Wixon at the University of Guelph that I was in the gym in the mornings, and I was in the gym after, in the afternoons with the team. It was I did whatever I could to find more time. So I booked extra hours in, and the other thing too is like I knew that volleyball was I had just committed to it so much that even my education I put second to volleyball. Like, I would budget the studying time and the assignments around my volleyball schedule. So if I only had like an hour to complete whatever it is I needed to get done, whether it's an essay or, I don't know, some group project, the hour would be done and I would just accept the grade that I got in that hour. Like, everything else was second to volleyball.
Well, you graduated, so it was pretty good time management there.
Yeah.
So
maybe I got lucky.
Who knows, right? Now, I mean, that's what we were talking about earlier, just your work ethic, and I think because you're very, I'll say you keep to yourself, but you keep, you're for your people that know you well and know how funny you are and know how hard you work. What do you like? What do you think is something that first year, second year kids or 17, 18 you kids need to hear from from a middle in terms of, if you're a 17U, 18U kid, you want to make it to that university level, and then you have those university kids that obviously want to be in your spot. What do you think the best piece of advice would be, if they could ask you, hey, what brought you to the next level?
Wow. So I started volleyball, like we're talking about our 17 and 18U years. So that was like my first year of club volleyball was 18U. And I took a fifth year in high school. And then I did like one, it was like an overager kind of series with the, in Ontario as well. And then I went to university. So really, I would say I played for the university, or sorry, not the university, the Waterloo Tigers. And so I was really young, going in, and I always felt like I was catching up my whole career. I felt like, I remember playing against TJ and seeing how amazing he was at the beginning when I was watching him play against, like, he was playing for Forest City, and I just felt like he'd been playing for so much longer than me, and I felt so awkward around the ball, like my small skills, just like I was good at the sport because I was kind of big, really. That was it. Like, I'm 6'8", and so people saw me and just stuck me in the middle of the court, and I was kind of good at it, and so I enjoyed it. And that's how really how volleyball came to be, a passion of mine. And so I guess for advice at the young ages, and the other thing too is, like, at that age I had no idea that a pro athlete was even a thing in volleyball. Like, I had absolutely no idea that was a career choice. So for a young athlete, I would say that time is a very valuable thing, and that as soon as you can commit to a goal, the earlier on, the better you'll be. Just because you'll have more exposure to the sport. Like, I remember making the provincial team for the first time, and that was in my 18U year. And I was with TJ, and I remember going into his dorm room when we were staying, and he was watching pro players, and I had no idea what that was, and that's just goes to show how dedicated he is, and how he had this exposure, and he had this goal. I know he knew what he wanted to do from a really young age, and I think if you can find that really young and commit to it, you're going to have so much more of an advantage because time is so valuable.
Right.
Is that an all right answer?
Yeah, man, that's great. That's very in depth.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So how have you transferred this work ethic to Europe? We talked to a few other guests we had, like TJ and Eric, and there is a lot of free time, right? Like, you have a few requirements throughout the day, but then you kind of have to do your own thing. So are you filling this in with lifts? Or are you doing video on your own? Like, what do you do to fill your day when you're overseas?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I always think that that's one of the advantages to my career, is that, I mean, I love what I do. I only have to really work, in the gym on an average of like 3 hours a day, because most pro schedules, they average down to 1 hour in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. So that leaves a lot of free time, and I love the career because it's given me time to invest in myself. And there are some things like, I guess my full day would be 3 hours of practice, 1 hour of stretching, maybe half an hour of watching game tape or something like that. Maybe more than that, depending on what the game is or how close I am, how far out from the game I am, or if I'm just watching it out of interest. And then the rest is a pastime. Like, I learned how to. I've done language apps. I've learned how to play guitar when I was there, when I was in France.
That's cool.
And yeah. It's like, I guess from an advice perspective, and just I try to find ways to invest my time into myself and develop skills. Like another thing too that really helps as a professional athlete is going over tape and marketing yourself too, being closely associated with social media, and if you make a big play, put it out there. So I learned how to edit and Photoshop and things like that, because if people don't know who you are, then you're never going to land a contract. Or I shouldn't say never. The more people who know who you are, the more likely you are to advance your career. So that's it. It's and stretching, game tape for sure, and then investing time in myself, whether it be from a marketing standpoint, from video in my career, or learning a new language, or playing an instrument. So it's a great life.
That's awesome. So TJ went into a little bit of depth with us about what he looks for as a setter when he's watching game tape, and he got into the sort of the specifics about what goes through his mind. As a middle, it's obviously different than the setting position. What are you looking for specifically when you're looking at game tape in terms of guys across the net from you, or what the setter's doing, or even what you're doing? So for me, it's as a middle, what particularly are you getting yourself into when you're watching game tape?
Yeah. Okay. So, well, I study the setter mostly. Like the first thing I look at, and if you're fortunate enough, because we have games every week, right? So on the teams that I've been with, usually we'll get the game plan maybe like the Tuesday or Wednesday before our Friday or Saturday match. So one of the big things that I'm looking for are percentages in each rotation. So just flat out numbers. And so then if I have a game plan in front of me, it's easy to basically predict the setter's actions. But it's, I guess when I'm in a mindset, I'm just trying to watch the game tape and play what I would do in that situation. On the path, like starting from the pass, I'll even just pause it at that moment, and I'll look at the net, and I'll see, in the front row, is there a blocker that's smaller, for example? Is there an attacker that is less effective on the other side of the net? And basically on those things, I'll just develop a cue and kind of get a sense of how the setter plays the game. If he's really forcing the ball to the smaller blocker on my side, then maybe on a perfect pass, I'm just going to commit to that ball. In certain rotations, like a lot of the time in the Czech Republic, when the setter's in 6 or 3, the middle was really common in a lot of teams because they like to run the ball in the middle when the middle's coming around the setter. And so a lot of the time I would commit on the middle on a good pass in 6 and 3. So there's the biggest thing that I watch for in game tape is tendencies based on the scenarios of my team. So if I have a small blocker, really effective, or if I have a really good blocker on my team,
Right?
Outside, So it's I analyze the game tape to understand the mindset of the setter, and sometimes it's just the setter's mindset will change based on the team, or good setter's mindset will change based on the team they play. So that's what I watch game tape for, really, is just to watch the setter and understand what he's doing,
Cool.
why he's doing it.
That's super insightful as well too, because it looks at a game differently, obviously from the setter's perspective and from your perspective. So I know when game tape is there, people don't really understand how important it is. So it's good to hear that you're very methodical when it comes to what you're looking for and what your plan is for each rotation.
Yeah, absolutely.
You talked about all these cool things you're doing with your free time. when I knew you, your free time was dedicated to a certain other craft, a StarCraft even. You're quite handy with the video game controller, from what I remember.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
you had a YouTube channel for a little bit there. What was your highest ranking in the games that you were playing, and what games were you playing?
My favorite game of all time is Halo for sure. Played on Xbox. I played it all the way growing up, and yes, that is like a major pastime of many volleyball players that I know, because you do have a lot of time on your hands, and you are fortunate enough. But I was ranked in, like, I played a game called Halo Reach, and in the game I was ranked. I think it was top 20. I was 23rd in North America at the time, and that was in my first year at university. And Dallas, I don't know how I got the grades I did in my first year, because really all I did was play video games and play volleyball. That was nothing else. I don't recommend doing what I did, but yeah, it's just been a blast, and I find that I play them now. I play them less. I play them less competitively or less aggressively, and but I continue to, because I find that it's an easy way to bond and still connect with the people at home. Because the biggest sacrifice you make as a pro player is that you leave all of your friends and your family behind for like the vast majority of the year. You miss holidays, you miss birthdays, you miss parties, celebrations, everything. So really what keeps me coming back to playing video games is, one, because I enjoy them, but two, and I can stay connected to not only my friends back home, but even my friends playing in Europe as well.
That's great. You talked a lot about early on about just the different languages and the different countries that were on your team, and obviously you just touched on it here. You're away from home, you're away from family. What was the sort of the biggest culture shock that you went through in your time, both in France and in the Czech Republic?
Oh man, biggest culture shock. God, there's so many of them. Man, well, I think that yeah. Wilson, I'll talk about one that's the same in both countries, okay? Because I do find myself, every time I come back to Canada, I always get frustrated on the roads driving. I really get frustrated driving back here in Canada, because I think the culture of driving in Europe is just, it's just better. I think it's because you know, pass on the left lane and drive in the right lane, basically, right? And I find that Canadians just don't do that very much, and it was just more of a bloodstream in Europe, and whereas like whenever I was driving in Europe, I felt like when I entered in other roads, it was a bloodstream that kind of everybody shared, and here you kind of get, everybody gets in their tank, and it's just, the road is mine. That was like that's kind of the difference that I felt, and I kind of feel it both ways, or in France and in the Czech Republic. But yeah, so that's something that always kind of like hits me every time I come back.
So you're yelling out the window when you're back home for people to get off the road, is what you're telling us.
Yeah, nobody in Canada knows how to do a roundabout, or for the
well, especially where you are now. I mean, what's
so
the MO in Quebec? Nobody in Quebec can drive.
Yeah, I know. The only place in the world that has to put a ret on their stop sign.
Yeah, nobody knows what that means.
I know. And yeah, but it's and the people too. I think the thing that I love so much about Canada is that there's the diversity in it, and that comes with like the food too. I found that when I was in France, French people like eating French food. Like they're quite satisfied with just eating French food. And it was the same thing in the Czech Republic.
Right.
We're happy with eating Czech food, and so there's less of where and I ask them all the time, what's your favorite thing to eat here? And usually the response back to me is, well, what's your favorite thing to eat in Canada? And for me, I'm like, gosh, anything.
Pad Thai.
Thai food. Yeah, exactly. Some pho. They're like, what the hell is pho? And I'm like, whoa, you don't know what pho is? Vietnamese beef noodle soup. He's like, oh, it's not Canadian? No, it's not Canadian. We have everything in Canada. So like that's kind of the thing that I miss too coming back. It's like when you go back to Canada and you realize, oh, I can get Mexican, Thai, Vietnamese, Portuguese all on one block here in
Right.
Montreal. So and in France you can get French food. So
All on one block.
all in one block.
Nice. So you mentioned how important marketing yourself was. Is that what went into your process to kind of go through a contract, or just for the young listeners out there, like how did you get your first one? What's the process of even getting an agent for somebody coming out of the university world? Like how have you kept climbing the ladder here?
Yeah, exactly. I think. Well, I'll start talking about an agent, and I think it can be important for you to get as I said before, to get your foot in the door. So there's, but I don't want to sell it as like a necessity. I think we're entering into a time now where the European volleyball is the people of European volleyball are understanding the level of Canadian volleyball players and the value that they present as well, because usually we come over as pretty hardworking people because we're going over there, to work, and because we're leaving everything else behind. And so I don't want to say that an agent is a necessary thing, but it can be part of the process, and it can be the difference in the beginning portion of the years. But what helps the agent and what helps yourself as well is making a name for yourself. So there's one difficulty, and that's getting over here in the first place, and then the second most challenging part is then perform, because it can be your first year is an important thing, and because it's kind of like you don't know who's going to be looking at you at certain times, so you always have to be do whatever you can to be at your best. Like my experience in my first year, it was kind of nerve wracking actually, because I broke a bone in my ankle at when I was with the national B team, and I was really worried that it was going to ruin my first pro contract in Saint Nazaire, France, and I came over there, and I had some time in the summer, and it healed, but at that time I didn't really know what it was. I went back over, and then in preseason I broke it, or re-injured it, and then it was diagnosed as a broken bone. And thankfully, I was able to, well, thankfully the club didn't send me home. I was really scared. I had 6 weeks off completely, and this was like within the first month of my arrival there. So I was injured. I had a late start to the season, and thankfully, this work ethic that we were talking about that I had kept me on the team for the next year. And the coach really liked me. And then second year of my pro career was again really challenging. I suffered from knee pain and knee injuries that really held me back. I had a setter that it didn't really use me a whole lot. And one of my I'd say my biggest skill is my offense. Like I can hit a pretty good ball, and so in terms of exposure, I got my first two careers. It was like very little. And, there was lots of people that looked at me and were just like, I don't care about this guy, or I don't know who this guy is. And I had to wait almost like till the end of July, I think, of last summer before I got my offer, before my to the Czech Republic. And over that summer, I was just totally focused on making sure my body was completely healthy. And I got that offer because the coach from the French coach was it was word of mouth, basically, from coach to coach. And then my agent set up the rest of it, and I was on my way. And then I finally had a season where I played well, where I didn't have any injuries, and that's like that's the biggest. That's the next biggest piece. So, and then this last season, I had tons of clubs in the Czech Republic interested in me, and I got to choose what I wanted. So, just to sum up what I said, it was an agent can help you get over there, but I think there's also now more people doing it without an agent, because the Europeans are looking at kids and trying to pull them out of university right away. And then once you get there, you have to perform. You have to be very vigilant, keeping yourself healthy and doing whatever you can so that you're in the best position to perform. And then the self-marketing thing. And then that's where that piece comes in, making highlight tapes, putting pictures online of you jumping as high as you can. Those are the things that can help with the exposure, in addition to whatever exposure your agent can provide for you. And just if there's more sources, there's more eyes. And when you are marketing too, you can put yourself in the best light possible, right? So it's why you see, there's loads of pictures there. I saw this. There's YouTube channels that make montages of guys that jump really high, and I thought it was hilarious one time when I saw Ray Zito out of nowhere in Toronto just bouncing a ball in a 9-man league on a low net. All of a sudden, there was just Wilfredo Leon, and then Ray Zito was the next clip. And but the video had 4 million views or 400,000 views. So it's these things, these little snippets. If you can just learn to put them out there, and people will see them.
So it's like that. It's like that X ball Steve Hunt hit in the German scrimmage game that it's gone viral.
If you can, and that's what I look for in those. And when I'm in a game, I'll watch my game tape just for my own sake. But I'll save clips like that. If I ever get something like that, and just try and shoot it out to the internet and see what happens.
Yeah. Because
it's not going to hurt anything. But I think that's something that players really don't do enough of, and it's something I do quite a bit of. And I think if you do it enough, later on in your career, once you develop your name, I don't think an agent is, relatively necessary. But it just depends on how capable you are and how connected you are overseas.
Well, now you're going to get a bunch of Instagram clips of you talking from us here on our end.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited to use that.
Yeah, exactly.
Some traction. That's how it works.
Hey, you got to pump our tires too. This isn't a one-way street.
All right, don't worry.
No, I just want to say from my end, we really appreciate you coming on, especially on the short notice. And you've given a ton of insight of what it takes to be a professional athlete, and all the meticulous things that go into keeping your body healthy, keeping your mind healthy, and just being professional.
Yeah, no worries, man. But you said you wanted one funny story, right? Yeah. So you wanted So I'm gonna tell a funny story about myself. One thing that maybe a lot of my close friends know is that I never drank any alcohol until I was 23.
I don't think I've ever seen you drink.
No, yeah. yeah, I never had a beer, a shot, anything like that in high school, all the way through university. I never had anything, and why I didn't. It was maybe that's another story, but it, the first time I'm going to tell you about the first time I had my beer, and it was going on, for so long now. No, 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 I don't drink. No, thank you. No, thank you. That I needed something really significant for me to have my first beer, as a celebratory kind of thing. That's the way I was going to break the streak. And so I said to myself, like, I'm going to, if I make the national team, I'm going to have my first beer. And on my graduating year, the summer of my graduating year, I made that team finally. That was my 5th attempt, and there was like a house party of all the guys that made it, and some of the guys that didn't as well after the camp, and of course everybody was drinking, and I hadn't had anything, and I was just quiet, and I was a pretty shy person too in university as well, and hadn't really grown up yet, and so the room was loud. It was a classic in a university party setting, and I basically just thought, oh, come on, Mark, you got to do this. You're gonna have a beer. You made the national team. You're over the moon. You're gonna do this right now. And so I just said, I basically whistled to quiet the room down, and I just said, hey, I have something to say, and I said, I've never had anything to drink before, and but I wanted to have my first beer with you guys because this was something really major in my life, and all of them looked stunned, like they didn't believe it, because I didn't really know any of these guys, right? And I think somebody tried to hand me it was a Pabst. And then it was Braden McLean that came in and said, "No, you don't want one of those." And then he snapped off a Heineken for me, and I took and it was everybody watching me. It was 30 people watching me drink this beer, and of course it foams up and then spills all over myself. and I'm pretty sure Braden was just like, "How's it taste?" And I was just like, "Pretty shitty." And he's just like, "Yeah, Heineken's not that great of a beer."
That's great, man. And that was your first beer.
That was my christening into the professional volleyball world. But yeah, man. And to this day, Heineken is a skunky beer, and I don't really like it.
Yeah, we'll tag them in this for sure.
Well, now you play in a country where I think you can get a Pilsner cheaper than a bottle of water, right, in the Czech?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Because the Czech Republic is wild for its drinking culture because the drinking tolerance is 0% for driving, and so that puts pubs in all over the communities because everybody needs to walk to them. So you can go to these local clubs, these little watering holes, and I regularly would go for a night with the guys, and, drink 5 to 6 pints, and it would be under 10 Canadian dollars. Yeah,
jeez.
I know. It's insane.
That's nuts.
They're like 30 crowns a beer, a pint, which is like, I don't know. I think it's like $2.
That's wild.
So we're going to come visit. And,
yeah, so you better pull out the futon for us, and we'll be live in the Czech Republic.
We'll visit you in your Army Auger while we're there, and it'll be good.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
That's awesome. All right, Mark, we're going to let you go, but once again, thank you for all your time.
Oh, we have one more thing. Congratulations, you're recently engaged, I heard.
That is true as well. University sweetheart.
That's right. Yeah, that's like a volleyball player. Darrell and I, well, we've done distance we've been together for so long, and now we've been together for 8 years, and we've done 5 years of distance, and we were now things were kind of aligning where she could come overseas with me, and I was so done with distance that at the end of this last season, I I proposed to her in the Montreal baggage pickup at the airport because I was just so done. I was just and it was wonderful. It was like a perfect moment because she was totally blindsided, and it was the first thing that she saw when I came back this season. So
that's awesome, buddy. And
yeah,
be sure to say hi to her for me as well.
I'm sure she'll listen to this whole thing.
Let's.
Sure.
Hey, we'll have 401 views.
Cool.
All right, buddy. Yeah, all the best, and we're looking forward to watch you kill it for another year.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah. All right, buddy. We'll sign off here and take care.
Absolutely.
See you,
Thanks,
buddy.
Mark. Special thanks to Marc Wilson for coming on and giving us a great episode. Hopefully you enjoyed that one, and if you haven't already, feel free to check out our previous episodes. We had some great guests, including TJ Sanders, Jesse Elser, Eric Matson, Becky Pavin, or we had an awesome episode last week with Autumn Bailey. And if you have a moment, please leave us a 5-star review and a comment on iTunes or our social media. Thanks, and back to the show. Awesome. Marc Wilson, good guest. Good get, Dal.
Thanks, Guy. Mark's a sweet dude, and like he said, branding yourself is one of the best things that you can do. So be sure to check out Mark's content on Facebook and on Instagram. But before you do that, be sure to subscribe to us on Podbeam and check out our Instagram, because we're way more important than Marc Wilson. And you know what, for that matter, Tom Wilson.
I don't know. I got to meet him the other day. Super nice guy.
Super nice guy.
The best. Anyways, yeah, as Dal said, I think the nicest thing you can do for the show is just to tell one person about the show.
And they'll tell one person.
And then they tell one person.
And then that's 4 viewers.
And then that's like 4 more than we have right now.
And then my mortgage is paid.
Kidding. We have a lot of great friends of the show. Thanks to Kelly Edwards and some other people who sent some messages. If you're not too busy, I mean, the mandatory thing, I think, is if you like the show is to tell one person. But if you have a minute or two, leave a comment, give a 5-star review. We'd love to hear your feedback.
Yeah, if one of the hosts needs to be subbed off permanently or semi-permanently, I mean, this is the avenue to make your suggestions. So if you want to see Josh and I stick around, or you want to see somebody off the air, be sure to subscribe and comment on our social media pages.
That's weird that I thought the comments were going to do that. I thought there had to be a coup, but I guess not.
Exactly.
So volleyball, right? Sports.
Big news out of China. Apparently, there aren't any direct flights from Brazil to China. So a lot of the athletes were posting on their ridiculous travel days. 40 hours in the air for some athletes, going from Brazil to Africa to Europe to Hong Kong to a different part of China and then to Xinjiang.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this last week. We knew it was 40 hours, but I didn't realize like the path that they had to actually take. I think we should have somebody on here to explain it, because it was pretty bad.
It was pretty gnarly. But some good results on the men's side for the Canadians, at least. A top 10 finish for both of our boys, Shakhtar Pedlo and O'Gorman Saxton. And winners, the Mole, Sorum Connection with the double gold medal to start off the bat. So coming off an injury, the Norwegians go 1-1 to start their FIVB season. Pretty wild there.
Yes, they're looking good. Beating Novandro and Bruno in the final, that was a good one. And
Luciana Dahlhauser in the quarter, and you know what? They had a hard path to beat everyone, and I guess the best team won, because the best team beat all the other best teams.
Yeah, it was confirmed. They didn't have an easy draw, but they kind of made it look easy.
Yeah,
a few 3-setters there, but they're the team to beat.
They're very good.
Quite good.
And on the women's side,
is Carrie Walsh ever gonna
stop?
Yeah. She's just so timeless.
And the funny thing is too now is she's in the qualifier for, good segue because Marc Wilson is professional in Czech Republic, for the 4-star in Ostrava, Czech Republic. Carrie Walsh, fresh off of her 4-star victory, is now in a 4-star qualifier for the following tournament.
That's insane, and I think the U.S. has always had depth, but it's really obvious now. Like you said, they just won a tournament and they're going to be in the qualifier. And you know what? I would never bet against Kerry, but maybe they don't make the Olympics this cycle. I don't know. There's so many good teams. Same thing on the guys' side. There's just a logjam of, I think, did Reed Pretty not medal at a tournament and be in the qualifier in the next one too? Like, there's so much depth there.
So Kerry's actually in a country quota. So you go from winning a medal, a gold medal at one of the best tournaments of the year, to having to play to even be in the tournament.
Wow. I think it shows the strength of the AVP and the domestic tour and even the NCAA with more and more athletes coming out of there, that the U.S. has so many good teams, and even if you've never heard of somebody, there's still a threat to win the tournament, it feels.
I never heard of you, but you're probably really, really, really good. Makes sense.
Like even Tribourne coming back from injury, they're going to Worlds. That's insane.
Booked their ticket.
Good for them. See, we don't just have to talk about Canada. We can give props to other countries.
Hey, you know
here.
what? If you're good, you'll hear about it on Past and Dimes. And if you're bad, you'll definitely hear about it on Past and Dimes.
Maybe. We're not here to embarrass anybody. You know, we like a good story.
We like a good fact, we like a good stat, but we like a good yoke.
Speaking of good stories, the NORCECA Tour seems to be a good place to get them. And Canada's about to have their second trial of the year, which means we'll have a whole fall of tournaments to get stories from people. So we're not sure who's home on the women's side. It feels like everybody's away. So that one might be wide open for a young Canadian team to get the spot and get some experience because let's just go down the list. Well, Heather and Brandy and Sarah Melissa, not interested. They don't need to go to NORCECA's.
No.
Too many points. But Taylor and Sophie are overseas. They've already left.
Yeah.
Julie and Shanice are in the main draw in China with MC and Amanda, which means Taylor and Sophie must be playing Czech. That's where they are.
They are in Austria, actually, at a 1-star.
I thought that was after Czech. Anyways, they're definitely in Baden, but I thought that was after. I don't know. If only somebody had the internet, we could check that.
They're not in Ashbridges Bay, Ontario.
And Anna Dunswen will not be playing because she is going to be in Nova Scotia accepting an award. We'll have to follow up with her, but she'll be going back home to accept that award and obviously see some family and friends and supporters there, so that's good. So that kind of goes through the Canadian program. Megan and Nicole are not playing in this event, so wide open. Somebody's going to get to go to their first NORCECA and report back a great story about how, I don't even know, I don't want to predict, but anything could happen.
Anything can happen. The stories are wide open when it comes to the NORCECA Continental Beach Volleyball Tour.
On the guys' side, Jake and Will were at the beach today. Sergey and Cam were, but I don't know if they're going to play NORCECA trials or not. Liam and Gabe.
Maybe.
So, yeah, on the guys' side, there could be some young
the guys
getting
wide open. I mean, the team of Pass and Dimes could be going to their first NORCECA tour together. The team of Nickel Keith.
Ooh, that'd be good. The American writer plays, eh? Travis Mayweather, the other host of Sandcast, who was with Tribourne.
We'll have to have him on.
You admire those people who really, want to get in between the sidelines, really see what this is all about and not just stand on the side.
I can't wait for Stephen A. Smith to suit up for the Toronto Raptors this week against Golden State in the NBA Finals.
It's very topical, Dal. Who you got and how many games?
I have the Toronto Raptors, you heard it here first, in 6.
I'm going to go Golden State in 5.
Who's winning game 1?
Toronto. I think we'll win 1 at home, either the game 1 or game 2, and then Golden State will settle in. I think they've been off for a long, long time. I think it's hard to get back into where, Toronto gets some off days, but they're also kind of riding the wave right now.
No, I got them. The boys are going to turn the city into a zoo. It's going to be mayhem, and it's going to be fantastic.
So just so people know, this episode comes out on Friday, but we're recording on Monday, so Dallas isn't just picking, after the game or anything.
No.
So
it's 8:30 Monday night, so for all you people that go, oh, Dal, you knew firsthand. No, I knew because I'm a magician. The score is going to be 112-109 for the Toronto Raptors in overtime.
You think they're going to hold Golden State to 109 in an overtime game?
You heard it here first.
I can't wait to play this back. No, that'll be good. I think Toronto exploded after Game 6. And the cool thing, I don't know if this is really confirmed, but I read it. I assume it's actual news. No crimes.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty wild, considering I saw a bunch of people jumping on street lights and buses and street cars. But hey, you know what? It speaks volumes to the Toronto police and to the fans. So good on you, everyone.
So good. If anyone wants to send us to the game, we'll accept tickets. But other than that, I don't think I'll be attending. But Maybe this will push down the ticket prices at TFC or the Jays, and we can go watch that.
That would be cool, too. I will take any tickets, anywhere, anytime. The Book of Mormon, a musical, is actually coming to the Ed Rivers Theatre in Toronto. I will accept tickets to that, too. It's hilarious.
I do highly recommend.
So that's another week of Passing Dimes. I think we found out our mutual admiration for the dramatic arts, our mutual admiration for Toronto sports teams, and you know what? Best of luck to all the teams in NORCECA trials this weekend and the Czech Republic as well.
Yeah, big things coming. We talk about beach every episode, but it feels like beach season's officially started now that all these 4-stars are coming. So more to come. And like we said, leave a comment, leave a review, even comment about guests you want to see. Because right now it's just been a wish list of Josh and Dallas saying, who do you want to talk to? And then we send out a feeler. But if anybody wants to recommend a guest, we're open to it.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Yeah.
All right, signing off, Passing Dimes.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Stay excellent. Bye, Dal. Hi, Mom.
Bye, Josh. Hi, Josh's mom.